One of the most commonly discussed things when it comes to mixing is compression and limiting. Essentially, what a compressor is doing is reducing dynamic range so you can ultimately make something louder and kind of control it better within a mix. A lot of times people are confused about when to use limiters and when to use compressors. I'm not going to get too into the individual controls of compression in this video. I'll do that in another video, but I will show you a couple examples of when I would reach for a limiter over a compressor. Here is a bass I'm working on. I will reach for a limiter often on a bass because it's a really good way to control the low end and kind of make sure that every note is the same. I could also use a compressor, but I'll do that usually for color after the fact. I'll usually start with a limiter. And this is just something I like to do. You can obviously layer compressors. There's a few different ways, but I find I get the fastest results by just starting with a limiter. I have a few of the most commonly used ones for me here in my template. This is an L2. It's kind of a more neutral limiter. And then I have two other options here that are a bit more colored if you're looking for that. Let's start with the L2 here. Let me pull that up. Let me get kind of everything. And then I will just play the bass as it is right now. So as you can hear there, I mean, the performance is kind of all over the place. Not because he's a bad bass player, but just because it's kind of a dynamic part. You can hear the low end kind of jumping in and out and changing per note. A really good way to control that is going to be by using this L2 limiter. So I'll show you that right now. Lower the threshold until we start getting some actual real solid limiting on this. When I do something like this, and when I put this limiter on to control the performance, I'll almost act like it was recorded this way, and then just kind of set it and forget it, and then treat the bass how I would normally in the mix. So I'm just going to lower this and then kind of get a nice balance. There's a really good spot. You can hear all the low end is nice and even now. Every note he's playing is kind of consistent. That really will help with the mix. Your low end will be solid throughout and you won't be fighting yourself and chasing your tail. So that's a nice neutral limiter, this L2. I'll use that all the time. Then there's a couple of these colored limiters that I really like. This one is the McDSP one. I love it. It has kind of their analog saturation thing that all their plugins have. So it's a little bit kind of more harmonically heavy in the top end a little. Also, always make sure you're kind of gain matching the whole time so you don't get tricked by something that's louder. This one definitely has a different sound. It's a bit warmer, and it sounds really good. It's a nice character on this DI. It really sort of gives it some vibe. And sometimes with DIs, they can be a little boring. So things like saturation and kind of this harmonic, old school vintage emulation stuff really makes a difference. I like that more than the L2. That's doing a great job. It's super even. And then I use this one all the time, this Faraday limiter. This one is great, and it has some really cool controls, like there's a warmth knob and a color knob. Unlike traditional limiters that are more neutral, this one really gives you a lot of control over the color. So here, check this one out. Gain matching, obviously, like I said. This one's really cool because it feels like it's limited in a really almost invisible way until you get into this stuff. So that's why I really like it, because you can kind of have this on every track. It's also a really low kind of CPU intensive plugin. In my mix, you'll find this on almost everything. That's limiter on bass. And then from that point forward, now I would maybe put on some compression for color, maybe like an 1176 or an LA two-way or just something to kind of make it move more and get some sort of vibe going. But you'll be starting from a much better spot because now the performance is really even. Okay, so this is going to be another really awesome example with a lead vocal when I would use limiting on it instead of just compression by itself. This is a really dynamic singer. This is a pretty epic chorus, so he's kind of shouting and getting a lot of mouth sounds and really getting into it. And when I'm recording it, I didn't want to have to stop him and adjust the input gain a lot because I don't want to mess up his whole performance and vibe. So I was kind of living with it, knowing that I would have to fix some of that later. But it's better to have kind of a subpar recording of a really great performance than a super awesome recording of a boring performance. So a lot of times I'll let some of that stuff slide in the tracking phase, knowing I'll have to fix it a little bit when I'm mixing. This is an example of that. As you can see, there's a lot of peaks and valleys, and it's kind of all over the place, so I'll just play it for you without any limiting on it at all.
Ooh, maybe I'm out of line. I wanna know what you feel like, but we're running out of time. I want your music, Wonderwall. Your dream scene, rock and roll hall of fame. I'm at the top of my game, yeah, baby. I'm at the top, at the top, at the top, at the top.
Specifically at the end, you can hear a lot of sort of spittiness in the vocal, a lot of sibilance and stuff. Let me just put on this Faraday limiter. It would be the first thing I would normally reach for.
Ooh, maybe I'm out of line. I wanna know what you feel like, but we're running out of time. I want your music, Wonderwall. Your dream scene, rock and roll hall of fame. I'm at the top of my game, yeah, baby. I'm at the top, at the top, at the top, at the top. Ooh.
Yeah, you can hear that's doing an amazing job already of controlling the vocal and making my life much easier down the road. Because now I can put something more standard on it, like an 1176 or something after the fact. And then, like I said, in the bass part, I'm going to kind of pretend like this is how it was recorded and set and forget this whole limiter. So then moving forward, it's just like now I have a really sort of even vocal performance. And then I can reintroduce some of the dynamics later with automation, but those are going to be up to me at my discretion. They're not going to be just the results of him jumping around the room. And then here's the L2 on this, just so you can hear it.
Ooh, maybe I'm out of line. I wanna know what you feel like, but we're running out of time. I want your music, Wonderwall. Your dream scene, rock and roll hall of fame. I'm at the top of my game, yeah, baby. I'm at the top, at the top, at the top, at the top. Ooh.
Boy, yeah, it's really just right in one spot now. That's awesome. I love this L2. I just bounce between these two all the time. They're really great. And then, yeah, now I could, now what you could do is you could have sort of this limiter going.
Ooh, maybe I'm out.
And put an 1176 or something sort of more standard for a vocal on here. And it's going to make the job of the compressor much easier because now it's not reacting that much to these sort of dramatic peaks and valleys, and it's getting a more controlled performance.
Ooh, maybe I'm out of line. I wanna know what you feel like, but we're running out of time. I want your music, Wonderwall. Your dream scene, rock and roll hall of fame. I'm at the top of my game, yeah, baby. I'm at the top, at the top, at the top, at the top.
Yeah, so now you're just getting the color from the 1176 Bluey, but you're getting the control from the limiter. So give that a shot in your mixes, and don't be afraid to use limiters. They're a really powerful tool, and when used correctly, it can make your life much easier.